Hello, Happy New Year and welcome to the Final Whistle with me, Daniel Watson. Slightly different format this time around, given that we've not really had time to get the shows out after the games with them being so rapid. So a little compilation of roundup from the Hearts match, the Livingston match, and sandwiched in between there we've got a little half-season review for you so far. There's a lot of talking in it, so I'll not bother with goal highlights. Cynics might think there's a reason for that, and you would be absolutely right. So let's just jump straight into the analysis for the Hearts game with myself and James. We're going to change this up and make it a half-season review, but we are sitting in the aftermath of a bitterly disappointing 1-0 defeat against Hearts. So, immediate thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean it's a derby that neither side deserved to win, but Hearts did. I think we said during the game that the only way it could be more like an Edinburgh derby is if Stephen Whittaker's shot actually crosses the line but doesn't get given. As I said, I don't think either side really did enough to take 3 points from that game, but it's one moment of quality from Ollie Lee from a Hearts perspective has won it. We just we couldn't quite force the issue, and the second half Adam Bogdan's had virtually nothing to do for the whole game. He's come and collected a few crosses, a couple of kind of short back passes that he's cleared, and he's made one good save from Stephen Naismith right at the start of the half. But other than that, I don't think Hearts offered anything in that second period. It was clear they'd sort of come, they'd got their goal and they were quite happy to sit in, I think knowing that we were unlikely to score. So you're right, I mean bitterly disappointing is the way to say it. It's just one of those that people will be looking back at and probably thinking exactly the same. Hearts didn't deserve to win that, but they did. They took their chance when it comes. Admittedly, they've taken it really well, but it's, I think some big questions for this Hibs team going forward. Yeah,
the majority of us probably would have predicted a 0-0 before it. It just seemed like a very typically Tynecastle Edinburgh derby. Very little in the way of quality or chances, and I think that was the most worrying thing. It was something I said to you at half-time on Hibs TV, was that I didn't see the Hibs nil aspect of that scoreboard changing at any stage, and I said to you before the game, I'll ask again now, should Hibs have asked for this game to be postponed?
I don't think so. It's nice to have that option, and it's in a way it's kind of nice to have that comfort blanket, but personally I don't think so. I mean, it's disappointing not to have Martin Boyle and Mark Milligan and Jeremy McLaren involved today. I particularly think we missed Martin Boyle's pace at a lot of times, particularly when we're hitting Hearts in the break in that first half. But at the same time, I think it's more disappointing from a point of view, and this is not having a go at the Australian manager at Graham Arnold at all. I'm sure he listens, but it's not having a go at him at all. It's disappointing that I'm sure the same way that Brendan Rodgers was disappointed that they couldn't get Tom Rogic released, that we couldn't get guys released to join up with the squad a day later and miss the friendly against, I think they play Oman tonight,
right?
A friendly before the Asian Cup starts. With the greatest of respect to Australia and to Omani football, while I'm sure it's frustrating from an Australian point of view not to have the full complement there for that friendly, I doubt it would have been too much of a stretch to allow both ourselves and Celtic to have the players. But that's all by the by. The fact is we didn't have those players, we had to adapt. It certainly didn't help that we had 11 injuries, but we can't use that as an excuse. We've got 11 players on the pitch today who should have had enough talent to match that Hearts side and did for the majority of the game, but were unable to find that sort of that cutting edge, that killer instinct. And it's even without those 3 players on the pitch, it's still the same questions that we've been asking over the past however many weeks it's been. Where are the goals going to come from at the moment? Who's got that killer pass in midfield? Who's got that little bit of steel in midfield to shore us up a little bit? And who's willing to dig deep and show a bit of grit and determination to grind out some results until we get to January? We can maybe get a few more bodies through the door. We get that a couple of days ago at Ibrox against Rangers, and we just don't get it here, and it is extremely disappointing.
I think, whilst I agree with your points, I still think that they should have requested it off. I've seen Neil Lennon's comments about, does that mean you call off the Elgin game? Does it mean you call off the Motherwell game? The difference is that it's an Edinburgh derby. Like, I know that we wanted football and Hibs in our season to be defined by a lot more than derbies, but at the end of the day, a huge chunk of it is. We watched David Gray come on to go to right wing back after we'd very briefly switched to a diamond back four. Whittaker played at right wing back. He was fine. Whittaker didn't do anything wrong tonight. He was the closest to coming to scoring a goal for us. But I'm watching that and going, we could have Martin Boyle there. I'm watching Stephen Mallon play for 60 minutes as a sitting midfielder when he should be up in the areas that Ollie Lee was when he does what he's. We could have Mark Milligan there, but we could have Jamie McLaren coming on with 20 minutes to go try to chase the game in. And for me, it's the wrong decision. I don't think we should have played this game tonight.
Yeah, and we're undoubtedly weaker without those three players in the squad. It's undoubtedly disappointing not to have those three players available. And you're right. I think even sort of casting an eye over that bench at the start of the game, thinking if we do go 1-0 down, unless you maybe bring on Marvin Bartley and David Gray and change the shape a little bit. With the greatest of respect to Emerson Hyndman and to Jamie Gullan, Lewis Allen and Josh Campbell, I've not seen a lot of Josh Campbell play. He must be doing something right if he's the first name that Neil Lennon thinks of to get a spot on the bench. Jamie Gullan and Lewis Allen have both come on this season and at least put in a decent performance when they've come off the bench. I think Lewis has been a little bit unfortunate in the games he's played. Probably were games that were suited to him and he was kind of thrust in without anybody really, I wouldn't say telling him he's going to be stuck in there, but I'm sure when he wasn't expecting it. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at that bench and you're looking at the depth of our squad compared to the depth of Hearts' squad at the moment. It's gutting in a way that this is kind of where we are. The list of players we got out, even if you take away the three who are off with the national side, with Australia, you've still got 8 players out, and that's including the likes of Lewis Stevenson, who's I think just about played as many Edinburgh derbies as anybody at the moment. You've guys like Ryan Porteous, who's probably been our best player this season. Even guys like Thomas Akipong, who can come on, and I know he's a long-term injury, but can come on and offer a bit of pace going forward. It's hard to kind of. I mean, you can sit here and we can kind of make excuses that we had those 11 players out and not many options to change it on the bench, but at the same time, I think the performance that the 11 players who weren't on the pitch today put in, it wasn't really good enough.
So we'll kind of fly through this game. We went 3-5-2, a couple of changes for the Rangers match. We've already said there wasn't a huge amount of chances at all. Canberra, I think it's about 15 minutes in before we get to see the first shot at all. It goes well over. Hearts, it's a very simple formation, 3-5-2. Clare and Lee looking to flick it on down to Naismith. I'm trying to see the first big Hibs chance I think the first big Hibs chance is a header for Ollie Shaw. And I can't even remember it now. Shaw heads it over. I think is it Horgan's going down the left or Mackey, and Flo's kind of there around about sort of in line with the penalty spot. He's free. He clips it to the back post. Shaw heads over, and it was all very Tynecastle-y feeling tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to sound absolutely ridiculous to say this, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who will have a laugh at it, but if you take Hearts' goal out of the equation, there's nothing between the sides at all. In terms of chances created, there's nothing between the sides at all. Obviously, that counts for nothing because Hearts do score the goal. Hearts do pick up the 3 points. It's difficult to kind of. We all know what we need in January. I mean, we all know there's a decision to be made when it comes to bringing players in. I'm sure there's one name immediately that immediately springs to mind for a lot of people. I'll not say it just in case he doesn't appear. But I think even further back than that sort of space between our midfield and our attackers, there's no steal in midfield when the likes of Marvin Bartley and Mark Milligan don't play. And quite apart from the fact that Mark Milligan's away just now and is going to be missing for at least 3 games, including this one. Mark Milligan and Marvin Bartley are both 32, 33. I think Milligan's 33, Gilly's 34. I know they're under sort of longer contracts, but at the same time, we need somebody to kind of step up and in there when those guys are injured, and which does happen to players sort of later on in their career. We need that kind of. we need somebody coming through who's able to play in that role, and I think we need somebody who's able to play in that role now to give us a little bit of energy and a little bit of drive in midfield. Again, I don't want to sort of talk or dwell on John McGinn too much, because I'll start crying, but it's games like this when you really sort of realise how much we miss him, and how much we just want him to come home and let us know that he's safe. And it's games like this when you need somebody to sort of take the game by the scruff of the neck in midfield, because while Hearts were good in midfield, they weren't great.
No.
They were stronger in midfield, but they weren't brilliant. Guys like Jim and Haring and Ollie Lee are all good footballers, but in terms of just pure ability, I don't think they're any better than the likes of Vikintas Slivka, the likes of Stevie Mallon, the likes of Daryl Horgan. It's that physically they're a bit stronger, they're a bit more imposing, they're willing to do the dirty stuff a little bit more. And again, that's not to say that Hibs didn't do the dirty stuff at times today. Daryl Horgan was absolutely flying into tackles at times, and I was really impressed with the way we dug in. I thought Vikintas Slivka was having a really good game, and I don't think it was the right move to bring him off for David Gray. Again, I don't think we've seen the best of Stevie Mallon over the past month or two, but we do know the quality's there, and I think part of the problem with that is that you're absolutely right in what you're saying, is Stevie Mallon's playing 40 yards further back than where he should. When the ball is bouncing off Flo and Ollie, you need somebody that will pick it up, who can just smash it, who can have a go for goal, like Lee did for Hearts tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury because we just don't have the squad, and we just don't have the capability for that to happen. It's... We all know what the problem is. It's all about how we're going to address it now. And we had the same problem last season. That was what we needed. We did the business in January, and January to May was just unbelievable. It was just a complete turnaround from the first 5 months of the season. I think we're unfortunate this campaign that there's 2 or 3 sides who were around us at that point who are better now than they were last year, whereas we've kind of, if not stayed the same, then maybe dropped off slightly. But the good news is it's, we got 3 days until the transfer window opens, something like that. 2 days until the transfer window opens at this point. Got a month to sign players. We've got about 3 weeks before our first game. It's Elgin in the Cup. I'm not going to make any predictions because I don't want us to end up in one of those greatest ever Scottish Cup shocks.
We can all guess what you're saying without you needing to see it.
It's a good way to come back in. We play Motherwell after that, which is a good test of where we are. It's difficult to try and put a positive spin on things at a time like this, but that's basically the best way I can spin it. The best way I can put it to everybody is that we've done this before, we've been here before, we just need to produce again.
Yeah, I get that, and I agree with you with regards to the midfield. We're coming off that today, and I can't say we won't walk away going, right, such and such is terrible, such and such isn't good enough, such and such needs to go. Individually, as a team, it was a very below par performance. We know they're capable of better, but individually there was nobody that really stuck out as having a shocker tonight. It's just that we can see, we probably spoke about this after the St Mirren game when we'd been away for a while and that horror run of fixtures happened. This team isn't broken, it just needs tweaked, it just needs readjusted, and it needs maybe 1 or 2 additions just to spark it back into life. It's not like this time last year where we needed to kind of totally dig up a problem, i.e. back then it was our lack of goals and our strikers, and replace people. It's just that we need to add to what we've already got.
Yeah, and I think that was absolutely key to what we did in the second half of last season, is that just our squad depth was excellent. You'd put a team on the pitch and you'd look at the bench and go, well, if it's not working, this can change. This guy can come on, he can offer a little bit more. The big thing last season was if things weren't working, we'd shift it around, we'd bring Brandon Barker on, we'd have Barker on one wing, Boyle on the other, and they'd just absolutely terrorise teams until we eventually broke through and got a goal. Tonight, I thought Daryl Horgan was good. I think at the moment he's being hamstrung by the fact that he's having to play right through the centre.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
And I don't think he's at his best through the centre. Not to say he's not a good player, because I think he's a fabulous player. I think his decision making needs a little bit of work. But I mean, you saw, a couple of times in the first half where he gets a break forward. I mean, he's absolutely heading forward at the Hearts defenders who don't know what to do. They're backing off. And tonight I thought his decision making was slightly better. There's a couple of times he picks out Flo Kamberi. The problem is that the gap between those two players and the rest of our team is 40-50 yards at that point, which brings us back to Stevie Mellon not playing high enough up the pitch as another option to come in there. Again, not having guys like Lewis Stevenson in the team who are usually heading up to offer an extra man, like Martin Boyle in the team who are usually there to be breaking with that team is not helping. But it's just the way things are at the moment that we are having to sort of keep patching things up. And the problem is, when you go and patch one part of the team up, a leak springs somewhere else, and you have to go and patch that up. And you're absolutely right that I don't think there were I don't want to say any bad individual performances, but nobody you can kind of pick out as being the worst player on the pitch. Even guys like Sean Mackey, who I don't think had a particularly good game against Livingston when he started. His three best games for us now have been against Celtic, against Rangers, and Boxing Day against Hearts, which speaks volumes for his character. I mean, he at no point looked like he was overawed by the challenge. I mean, there's a sort of late in the second half, the ball's bouncing around in the Hearts corner, and he's up, he's challenging with, I think it was Jim first, and then it was Godinho, and he's winning these headers, and he's winning sort of second balls off him, and which is all well and good, and it's great to have him there, but it's difficult to kind of say that that's going to fix the problem. Whether Neil Lennon looks at that and goes, well, maybe we can use him further forward when Lewis comes back. I thought he had a good game when he came on in midfield against Celtic. Again, do we use that as sort of, can he drop back further and push Stevie Mellon forward? If you want to sort of patch it that way, I don't know, but absolutely right in what we're saying, in that it's a big January ahead, and it's not a bad squad that we've got here. It's just not big enough.
After the game, we done a little half-season review, kind of talking over high points, best goals, that kind of thing. So here's that for you as well. Right, so yeah, we're at the halfway point. We're obviously leaving it in a bit of a downer. December was a weird month in the sense that if you'd told me that after that Kilmarnock performance we would have then went 6 unbeaten, including a win over Celtic, a couple of draws against Rangers, I would have been delighted with it. The performances, but still never got to the dizzy heights of the start of the season. So let's reminisce about how nice the start of this season was as we go into a sort of short half-season review.
Europe was warm, wasn't it?
Europe was warm. I got to go to Greece. You got to go to Norway. It was
John fell off the wall in the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, and because of that, we got to go to Greece and Norway.
That was nice.
Yeah. What was, I don't know. So I suppose your highlight of the season so far?
Sort of looking back to Europe, I don't think, even watching the game away in Greece here, when John McGinn scores, oh God, here we go again. No, when John McGinn scores that goal, I mean, even watching it here in the pub, this place was absolutely rocking, and to sort of go through and put in a very un-Hibs performance away in Europe and actually go through was incredible, and something I was absolutely delighted about. At the same time, it was a source of much frustration when we were here against Molde and seemed to do everything but score.
I think now with the power of hindsight, we can see that Molde had done such a good job that Man United went and took the manager.
Exactly, and I had a conversation with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer while I was over there, and I said, listen mate, you're destined for the top, and he's obviously taken that advice. So Ollie, if you want to send a cheque, it's no.
I don't think we really want anyone on loan, but do we? That season's about on a par with ours.
I know Haaland's going to Salzburg, but I mean the Norwegian season's over.
Yeah,
he's not. I mean, Salzburg are a good side; they can spare him. Yeah. He's a big lad, and he's a good player. That was obviously great, and I think it's been a long time since we've, admittedly it wasn't the longest European campaign in the world, but it's been a long time since we've progressed through a few rounds and actually looked like we might do. I mean, not going to win the whole thing, but not with that attitude. But
think of that comeback against Asteris East.
It was unbelievable.
That was a brilliant game. I'd quite actually like to not watch the full match, but I'd love to watch the highlights of that game now.
David Gray's goal in that game. I mean, Flo Kamberi's as well, obviously important being the winner, but David Gray's goal to make it 2-2.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
I hadn't seen a celebration like that in about a year. You know, it was unbelievable, and it was sort of symbolic that David Gray's the man who, I think he came off the bench in that game, and
possibly
he scores. That was kind of nice. And again, I think the sooner we get David Gray back to full fitness, at the moment, the better. Because I think we always look better. We look a more balanced team with David Gray in the side. But yeah, obviously, the European campaign was fantastic. The 2-0 win over Celtic here, given the December that we've had, is obviously, with the power of hindsight, is a very good performance. We absolutely thrashed a very poor Hamilton team here, but looked like a good side.
I loved that. Love's pushing it, but I really enjoyed the game against Motherwell. The
3-0,
because we were all expecting kind of tired legs and all that, and it was so comfortable. It was so routine. You really thought at that point we were going to kick on for another special season. Not to turn this depressing again when we're having a nice reminisce here, but
I think all the pieces are still there, and like you say, it just needs take back together a little bit. We're still a good side. There's nobody in that squad who you look at and say it's probably not for the squad. I mean, even and not to kind of break the fourth wall here, but even Stephen Whittaker tonight, I actually thought had a decent enough game. He goes closer than anybody to scoring. He's an absolute pile driver, and he's very unlucky, but again, not to sort of go back to what exactly has gone wrong, but all the pieces are there.
Yeah.
It just needs moulded.
Pun intended.
Nice. Yeah. It's nice. It wasn't, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Your goal of the season so far?
Well, it's been a few. A couple of good Stevie Mellon free kicks in there.
I think in terms of the Malin ones, I still think his free kick in the Faroes was absolutely outstanding.
Not a lot of people saw it.
Yeah,
not because nobody was watching, because it was a bit foggy, but that was a good goal. His free kick against Runavik here was excellent as well. He's had one against Hamilton in the 6-0, which he's hit from about 30 yards and it's gone in. Martin Boyle's goal here against Motherwell was very good, where he kind of comes in from the left and beats a couple of Motherwell players and smashes it in. Flo Canberry's against Celtic was a great strike.
Both Canberry's against Celtic were very good.
Both great goals. Even Martin Boyle's goal in that game was a really nice goal. So a lot of good goals. Just a shame more of them haven't come in the last couple of games, to be honest.
True. And your player of the season, toss up between Bogdan and Ambrose from
I think it's Adam Bogdan. I thought tonight I was never concerned at any point that there was going to be any kind of error. I thought he was very commanding. He caught everything, everything that was thrown at him, he saved. I think the game, going back to that game against Astor away in Greece, at times he kept us in it. He makes a couple of unbelievable stops.
There's one from a header from the corner, and if the ball's behind him, that was outstanding.
It's like is it David Seaman makes a save that's very like
when you mean the cup semi-final.
It was very similar to that. So Adam Bogdan's been great. Effie Ambrose has been fantastic as well. Even tonight, he nutmegs one of the Hearts players, which obviously gets a big reaction from the crowd, which is probably our highlight of the game, to be honest. But at times tonight he's just been strolling. This season he's been strolling through games, and whether this is his last season here or not, we don't know it at the moment. It's been an absolute joy to watch him so far, and particularly over the past season or so, he's really stepped up. But I think just for sheer comedy value, and just for the fact that I think we've got a real player on our hands, player of the season so far is probably Ryan Porteous.
What's your favourite Ryan Porteous tackle of the season?
Well, I mean, this is more difficult than the goal, to be honest.
I think aside from all the tackles, it really says a lot that his knee pops out 3 times and yet he finished that Livingston game. Probably shouldn't have. Probably should have been taken off, but that is a different conversation.
Well, absolutely. Podcast. His favourite tackle. Well, my favourite tackle in general was the one against Sunderland last season, where he puts Lee Cartmel into orbit, which I think frees him of the City of Newcastle.
See, that one at McDermott.
The one at McDermott Park. I
thought like half that St Johnstone player was landing in the stand.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't even a foul. He got booked for it, but it wasn't even a foul. He got the ball. It's almost difficult to pick a favourite tackle, but I think Ryan's overall play and the fact that we're actually watching him sort of develop into a very, very good footballer as well, has been really good. And he's on a very long contract. I think he's got 5 years. He's signed a 5-year deal. Yeah, he's signed 5. Him and Fraser Murray.
Which Fraser's another fantastic player who I'd like to see more of in the team. But yeah, it's I think Ryan's been titanic at times at the back this season.
Yeah, I think this month in particular we've really seen him grow. There was a game at Pittodrie where he had a shaky game, gave the ball away from Mackay Stephen's goal, albeit it was a great strike from Mackay Stephen, and he almost learnt from that. Like, he's young, so he's going to make mistakes.
Yeah, he is, and I think he's young, and we're seeing him mature all the time. Every time the ball gets headed away from a corner, it's him who's roaring it. The other four defenders who are all much more experienced than him to get up. It's him that's kind of taking the lead at times and making sure everybody's in line, and you can tell that he's got a very bright future in the game, and his leadership is clearly already there. There are a few rough edges, as you say, but he's only 19. He's going to learn. We've already seen it with, let's pick another example, with McKenna up at Aberdeen. McKenna first came into the squad, he was a good defender, but he was very raw. I think he's developed so well over the past 6 months to a year that you're actually looking at him going, now, well, he should really be starting for Scotland. Again, you don't want to sort of put too much pressure on Ryan too early, but if he keeps developing at the rate he's developing it, I don't think it'll be too far off.
Looking at the league table, we're 8th. We're 5 points adrift to the top 6 with St Johnstone winning today. We're 12 behind Killie in 3rd. We've seen with Aberdeen that when everyone was talking about them finishing bottom 6 at the start of the season, what a run of wins can do. The fixtures are going to be fairly generous when we come back. I think we've got a trip to Parkhead sandwiched in between the so-called easier games, if you want to call them that, or teams below us and around about us. So I think even possibly 3rd looks out of reach, but there's nothing to say that we can't be pushing for certainly top 6. If something's seriously wrong if we still don't finish top 6, and that's when I would start to worry. But I would still expect us to see putting a credible run of results together and maybe pushing for 4th.
Yeah, and I think we're almost at a similar stage as what we were last season, in that I don't think anybody would have foreseen the kind of run that we went on in the second half of last season, when we were sitting at this stage. I think it's going to be a tall order. It's going to be tough, and it's going to require everybody to dig in. It's going to require the same effort as last season as well to kind of push us up the league. But going back to the squad again, it does need it needs a bit more depth. But you look at the teams who are above us, the likes of St Johnstone, the likes of Livingston, which is kind of a special case in its own because they obviously have something there. The likes of Killie, the squads are no better than ours. They're certainly sort of there's guys that are sort of playing way above their level. St Johnstone, I think, is a classic example of that. I think Tommy Wright's been given time. He had a very poor season last season. But Tommy Wright's been given time. He's brought in the likes of Tony Watt, Dre Wright, Matty Kennedy, even the likes of Jason Kerr, I think at centre half, has been fantastic for them. Joe Shaughnessy is obviously very experienced as well. Guys like Watt and Kennedy, they're almost coming with a point to prove. Tony Watt, this must be what, it's about 6th or 7th club, something like that. And you could always see that the ability was there. It was just, it was the application there, was the effort there, was the discipline there. I think in times this season he's shown a lot. I think he's shown a bit of maturity. I don't want to go too far because there could be something tomorrow, to be honest with Tony Watt. You never really know. The same with Matty Kennedy. When we had him here a couple of years ago when he was still a very young kid, and he looks to have matured. He looks like a much more dangerous player. He looks a much more confident player. That's kind of what it takes. It does sometimes take, it does sometimes take a little bit of time for players to kind of carve out their niche and carve out their role in the squad. It might take the same amount of time for us. It might take, a few guys, you talk about a few guys getting injured and guys been given their chance. Would Sean Mackey be would you be looking at him as an option off the bench at the start of the season and going, well, that's a decent option to have? Probably not. But now, given his performances, you're looking at him and going, well, we're actually pretty well stocked now at fullback. He's kind of leapt ahead of Mikel Nellan in the queue, which for a guy who's a Dutch international, is a pretty tall order, and Sean's done really well to get in there. But yeah, it's not going to be easy. I think you're absolutely right about the fixture list. Elgin, with the greatest of respect to Elgin, is a team that we should be brushing aside without much difficulty. But we've been here before.
Yeah.
We can't take them too lightly. It's a cup game, and as the old cliche goes, anything can happen in cup football. I think it's Motherwell away on a Wednesday night,
yeah.
which it sounds like an absolute nightmare, to be honest, as Fir Park on a Wednesday in January, but I'm sure it will be sheets of rain. It'll be a terrible pitch. It'll be howling wind. It'll be exactly the kind of conditions that we usually hate playing in.
But the good thing is that 4 days after that we go to Paisley, so
which is
on a Sunday for a 1:30 kick-off.
Which is against a St Mirren side who I'm sure are going to be absolutely fighting for their lives, and who are already fighting for their lives at the bottom of the league. I think we said at half-time it'd be interesting to see what Oran Kearney does in the January transfer window. But again, it's a team that we should be beating. I think it's Celtic after that.
Celtic, then we're at home to Aberdeen. No, sorry, Aberdeen come to us after St Mirren. Then we go to Celtic midweek, and then Hamilton come to Easter Road.
So you look at that run of fixtures. There's a nice blend of sides that we should be beating there, sides that are going to give us a test, and the potential at least for advancing the cup as well, or what we should really be doing. We don't start back until I think it's the 23rd of January, the 20th of January,
the 19th
of January. Sorry. That gives us about 19 days in the transfer window. It gives us almost exactly 3 weeks actually, till we're back here. So a lot could happen in that 3 weeks. There's a lot to be done. I think the winter break for teams like us at the moment is beneficial. It does give everybody a chance to kind of step back and have a look at what's going on during the season, and if there are problems need to be fixed. Clearly there are problems here. How can we fix them? So you can't take any side too lightly. You can definitely not take any sides in the Premiership too lightly. It's like I said, it's going to be tough. It's going to require unbelievable effort. It's going to require the kind of effort we got last season, but I believe this squad with the right 2 or 3 additions could do it, and with the right players coming back from injury could do it. And it's not like we haven't been here before. We all know what's needed, and it's just about putting that in place.
Remember when we played Livy less than a fortnight ago and it was a 1-0 draw? Feels like about 6 months ago, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, here's a round-up from that. We talked during the first half, because there was nothing else to do in the first half, about how matches before Christmas don't seem to be classics here at Easter Road.
Yeah.
But first half was very uneventful. Second half we get a couple of goals, but I don't know, 6 changes, are we happy, disappointed?
The first half felt empty. It was not a classic in any way, shape or form. It was very, 3 days before Christmas. Not a lot happened. We've made 6 changes. We've brought almost the entire academy into the first team. But a point's a point against a Livingston side that beat us earlier this season. It certainly wasn't a good performance. I think the difference, between this week and a few weeks ago is it's not a good performance, but we still got a point. Whereas a few weeks ago, it was not a good performance, we got beat. Maybe towards the end of the season, and this is the only gloss I can really put on this, we're looking back and go, that was a good point we picked up there. That's a point that could really help us out. But at the same time, I can't imagine that Neil Lennon's going to be too pleased with the overall performance of his team today.
Something I suppose will maybe be lost in amongst all this is that if you'd said after that performance at Rugby Park on the 1st of December that come Christmas Day would have went 5 unbeaten, I think most people would have bitten your hand off. It's not been, Celtic aside, it's still not exactly been incredible performances, but I think something that Neil Lennon may or may not say is that all the changes were almost enforced by what is a ridiculously heavy fixture schedule over the course of 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and there's a few guys who've come in today. The likes of Sean Mackey, who was excellent against Celtic, and Darren McGregor, who have merited a bit more game time and do deserve a chance to show what they can do. This is traditionally the periods where guys do get to come in and one would either put themselves in the shop window before January and put themselves in the frame for the rest of the season, or at least show enough about them that we're willing to take a chance on them for the rest of the campaign. So it's understandable to make all the changes. I'm not sure they all worked. I'm not sure kind of the way we were set up in the first half necessarily worked against this Livingston team. But there certainly weren't many bad performances. It was one of those where it was a little bit of a frustrating day. There wasn't a lot coming off for us in the end. I wouldn't say we were fortunate to get a point, but it was one of those where, looking back over the game as a whole, it's probably deserved.
On the balance of things, it's kind of, people talk about Canberry's missed penalty, but is it Lawson? I've not got the team sheet. Lawson right at the end with an absolute sitter, with the penalty itself, I went to see Partick Thistle play Livy in the second leg of the sort of relegation playoff.
Exotic.
And Connor Salmon got a penalty, or stood up to take a penalty for Thistle, and the whole stadium just knew.
Yeah.
We just knew, and there was almost a kind of feeling of that today. And is that a sign of sort of Flo's form, or just the kind of how pessimistic these Hibs fans are?
I think we're legendary for pessimism, and I think that's the Scottish Cup has done wonders for that. It's become a lot more optimistic. But yeah, I mean, you never really got the impression he was going to score there. And I mean, that's no slant on Flo. He has scored plenty of penalties since he's been here, and it's just one of those where the way the game was going, and possibly with his form being the way it has been recently, you just couldn't see it going in. I feel for him, because it's one of those where if he does stick it in the net, it's a lot more confident, a much more confident player for the rest of the game. But I mean, Liam Kelly makes a decent enough save. It's not a great penalty, and again, it's one that Flo will be disappointed about. But at the same time, I thought Kelly had a really good game today.
Yeah.
I thought he made a couple of really good saves when he was called upon. The Livy fans were chanting like Scotland's number one, which for a guy who's 21, probably not that far off. I think he's a decent enough prospect, and I think he's been the under-21s keeper for quite a while now. So yeah, it's disappointing in that way, but I completely lost the thread of what I was talking about there. Were we talking about Flo Canberry's penalty?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, and Flo will be disappointed by it, but it's one of those where you just kind of had to pick him up and make sure he's back firing. And it's one of those that it's going to take time. You thought maybe after his goal against Celtic he'd back amongst the goals and a bit more confident. Didn't have too many opportunities on Wednesday to show that, and that was the perfect one there. It is obviously an opportunity missed, but again, you've got two big games coming up, and goals against Rangers and Hearts certainly wouldn't go amiss.
Yep, so to take this one back to the beginning, 6 changes. I'll not even try running through them, but we go back to 3-5-2. Enforced, possibly, but it's a formation that was kind of the key aspect for me for that long unbeaten run that we went on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the point with the 3-5-2, and certainly the one of the major parts of it last season was having the midfield trio of McGinn, McGeoch and Scott Allen in there. We didn't really have that today, and even the guys that we did have in there was no Stevie Mallon, who was injured. Daryl Horgan was dropped to the bench. McGinty Slivka, I think, did well again. I thought he's had a couple of really good games, but at the same time, it's one of those we look at, and with these players, with this squad, is it the right kind of formation to be playing? Is it the one that's probably best fits the players that were on the pitch? I don't really think it was, and I think it's one of those where it did work last season. It did work well at times last season, but we have to kind of assess the squad as a whole and work out what the best formation is, because the sort of constant chopping and changing certainly isn't helping anybody. I was surprised to see us go 3-5-2, given that the FA and Ryan have been so solid over the past few games, and haven't conceded at all. I mean, that was from the first goal in what was over 300 minutes or something at this point. So that was a little bit surprising, but you can understand with the injuries that we got and with the type of opposition that Livingston are, the type of game that they played, made changes. I'm just not sure that 3-5-2 was the right one. On that note, though, it's good to see David Gray back among the substitutes and looking like he's back approaching some kind of fitness. And I think there was a bit where we thought he was going to come on today. Obviously doesn't make the pitch, but it's, having the captain back is obviously always a positive.
It's a strange one watching Gray, because I think in the opening 5 minutes you noted that Ryan Porteous looked like he was struggling. It was very evident by the end of the game Ryan Porteous was struggling. There was 3 times he was down. He was heavily bandaged for the duration of the second half. So if you've got David Gray there and an opportunity to maybe drop Milligan back or put someone else into the midfield, it feels like we possibly took a risk. Now I could be wrong, Ryan Porteous could play against Rangers and Hearts, but to me if he does feature on Boxing Day, then it looks like it would be a minor miracle. But then again, everything's possible with that boy.
Yes, it could be a Christmas miracle. It did look like he was struggling pretty early on, and he came out for the second half with a compression bandage on his knee. So I don't know if it's an impact injury rather than any kind of muscle thing, which obviously it's a different sort of recovery for that. But I can understand sort of not wanting to rush David Gray back. At times it felt like maybe going to a 4 at the back would have helped us in that game, but Ryan Porteous will know himself how fit he is. Ryan Porteous will know himself if he's able to continue, and he soldiered on, obviously. So he seemed okay walking off the pitch at the end of the game. Like I say, just have to wait and see. Hopefully he's fine for Boxing Day and for the derby, but remains to be seen.
And this is usually the point of the podcast where I would run through the chances of the first half. We'll gloss over the first 19 minutes because nothing happened. First chance of the match is Martin Boyle burst through, who looked probably as dangerous as he has for a long time today, Boyle at times. He gets in behind, low shot, and we've already talked about Liam Kelly, but that was the pick of the bunch. He saves it there, brilliant save to low down. Yeah,
it was the times where we actually got Martin Boyle on the ball in behind today were the times when we looked most dangerous. That's where the penalty comes from in the second half. There's a few times in the first half where he kind of gets free and he puts a few dangerous crosses into the box which don't quite hit their mark, but it was causing Livingston a few problems. Lovely little, I think it's a pass through from Slivka initially to set him away. A good shot, is going right in the bottom corner, but as you say, Liam Kelly gets a strong hand to it and pushes it away, and I think he's probably man of the match today, Liam Kelly. Not because we created sort of a huge amount of chances, but the saves that he made, I think in any other day would have been held up, but actually that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to say.
Fine. We'll go on. So after that, the Hibs kind of started to maybe dominate most of the ball, take control of the game. Shaw has a turning shot which is very comfortably saved. McGregor then probably has the best chance of the first half. It's a corner, comes in from Mackey, and it's a free header that he puts wide, and to me it looks like he should have done a lot better with it.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's difficult to judge, obviously, where we are in the stadium and with the view of the game that we get, but it looks like it's right on his head. It looks like he's only 12 yards from goal, or not even that, 10 yards from goal. Perfect position, and he heads it wide. I wonder if it's those, you're always sort of told to kind of head back across the keeper, but I wonder if it's one of those that maybe flicking it in the opposite corner would have been better. But it's maybe a chance to looking back on later tonight in the highlights and wondering why we didn't take a goal there.
And that's pretty much it, to be honest. Livy have won at our end. I don't even know how to describe it.
It's Stramash, I think. It's the word Stramash was invented for.
I'm going to assume it's Hardy. He kind of he has loads of space in the 6-yard box, miscontrols his first touch, and then it's just a cluster without finishing that forward. It's
there's 4 people trying to kick the ball all at once, and somehow it ends up out for a throw-in, which is fine. But it was sort of comically. Kind of bad finishing and bad defending, and it's like kind of fire and ice. There's eventually something have to give. Yeah.
And I think that might be the shortest first half review we'll do of this podcast. Hibs being Hibs, it's the 56th minute, and it's so basic. Like we pointed out the second half side, Livy had a flat back five, so it's not as if they're fast on the counter. We know their game. It's simple, basic long balls at times, direct, and it's just a simple ball through the top, and Hardy just walks through it. I think it's Porteous and McGregor, and there's no challenge, you know, and it's take nothing away from Ryan Hardy, it's a tidy finish from a decent youth prospect in the making, but my God, we concede some ridiculous goals this season.
Yeah, it's one of those where you could it was the most Livingston-like goal to see, maybe apart from like a long throw going into the box, and that's certainly no criticism of Gary Holt and the way his team plays. You know, that's the style that fits them, and obviously this season it's been hugely effective.
I thought at that point that it was going to finish 1-0. I didn't think Hibs would really have it in them to fight back. We just considering the changes that were made, but to be fair, we reacted well to it, and it's not long after that it's a brilliant through ball from Ambrose to find Martin Boyle, and the least contested penalty decision I've seen in a long time. Not one Livy player questions it.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the Livingston defender is who commits the foul, but I mean he spins Martin Boyle up in the air, but I mean that's what we were saying earlier on, is the first time that we actually sort of got Martin Boyle in behind, and the first time that we kind of played him in behind to great effect. We started causing them problems, and obviously, you know, he's absolutely rapid. He gets right on the end of it, completely wiped out by, I think it was Alan Lithgow, but I might be wrong about that. And yeah, no complaints there. Everybody, I think, knew it was a penalty, but at the same time I think everybody knew we probably weren't going to score it.
Yep. And we don't.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's the
but even the build up to it,
it took a long time for the penalty to actually get taken. It's not because there was protests or anything, it just seemed to take a while for like everybody to get sorted. And
I think it maybe sums up the match. We've joked about Porteous and McGregor teaming up front, but Ambrose is probably our best attacking option today. His runs forward were good. If Efe Ambrose had a shot in him, I mean, I'm sure there's a reason he doesn't shoot. I remember, I think there's a clip that goes around from when he played at Celtic where he runs the length of the pitch, plays a brilliant 1-2, and then when he's clean through on goal he puts it about 15 yards over the crossbar. So there's a reason why he doesn't finish, but if he had that to his game, he probably wouldn't be at Hibs.
Yeah, he's I mean, that was another one that only really sort of came up in the second half, was Efe picking up the ball midway in his own half and just charging, and he was going past a few players and he was dragging the Livingston defence out of their shape, and I mean he does that all the time, but for whatever reason today it seemed to take him sort of 60 minutes to decide that that's what he was going to do, and that the penalty comes from Ambrose sort of charging forward and playing Boyle through, and pulling them out of position like that. So it's one of those where you kind of, one of those have never been, you don't know if they've never been told to keep it tight, and to not sort of break from whatever position they're in. But when we actually did start to do that and did start to sort of put them under a bit of pressure, that was when we were creating a few chances, when we were getting a few kind of opportunities to advance in goals. So it's one of those where you never want to take that out of Effie's game, but you don't want to be sort of encouraging him to do it all the time. Today I kind of felt that probably didn't do it enough.
We get a free kick that's taken short and looked completely lost. I think Slivka plays it short to Horgan. I mean, I am number one fan of the Darragh Horgan club, so I'm not probably, in fact, how do I word this? I am probably the biggest Darragh Horgan fan, as we've heard in recent weeks, so it's no surprise that he comes on and yet again sets up a crucial goal for us. Great ball in and a very unorthodox but tidy finish.
Ryan Porteous with a header when the ball's about an inch off the ground, which I don't know if Ryan thought he was going in for a tackle head first, but it's a really inventive header. Again, Darragh Horgan coming on, I don't know I think the criticism from a lot of Hibs fans, he tends to drift out of games and his decision making at times is questionable. What can't be questioned is his crossing ability. It's the same at Hamilton. When he comes on and within 5 minutes of him being on, he's laid it on a plate for Ollie Shaw to score the only goal of the game. Here again, it looked like a terrible free kick. Slivka plays it short to Horgan, but it goes over the box. It goes across the box. Obviously, Porteous does get his head to it, but it's one of those that's teasing, it's begging for a touch to send it in. I think Canberry's just sort of like he was about an inch away from getting a foot to it himself. Porteous obviously does get the touch, unorthodox though it was, and sends it into the bottom corner. But again, it's one of those where Does Daryl Horgan merit starting every week? And just for that cross stability alone, I think he probably does.
Yeah, and so from, I think there's about 10 minutes left after that equaliser, and we do have a couple of chances to win it. Martin Boyle's probably about a foot away from scoring our goal of the season. An incredible solo run in the strike. Looked like it was away to me when he hit it, but just a foot the wrong side of the goal.
Very unlucky. It's a run that he starts in his own half. He goes past about 3 or 4 Livy players and really quick feet. Really nice shot. And I mean, that was one that Kelly wasn't getting to. If that just clips the inside of the post, or I don't even know if it might have shaved the post even as it goes past, but it's in, and it's one of those where it probably would have been harsh on Livy if that goes in and we win the game, but looking back it's very close and maybe a bit unlucky not to go in.
So that'll do us for this episode. A massive thank you for everyone who's listened over the course of 2018 from both myself and James. A massive thanks to everyone who's contributed to the show over the course of that year as well. To catch up with all this season's highlights and best bits, then you can subscribe to Hibs TV today. They'll also have live coverage of the Elgin match, which is when we'll be back on the 19th of January, and I'm sure tickets are on sale and available online for that also. So again, another thanks for joining us for this one, and join us next time on The Final Whistle.